Time is of the essence. I honestly have no idea what that's supposed to mean, except that when it comes to time and our use of time, it's a pretty big deal. In the crazy world we live in today, we're expected to keep up with so many things: school, homework, sports, family time, chores, church, God time, relationships, and the list keeps going on and on and on. And on top of these things, expectations usually involve deadlines. We get overwhelmed and flustered, we never slow down, and sometimes the deadlines go flying out the back door because we either forgot about them or we ran out of time to get them done. Then we try to figure out a moment when we can spend time with God, and that time also gets put on the back burner as we rush through our busy day. So what are we supposed to do? We want to get everything done the way it's supposed to be done. We want to live up to everyone's expectations, even our own, and we want to spend time with God, but we just can't ever seem to catch up. Then if it's not enough pressure to think about our precious time flying by, someone's throwing out the old "time is money." So now we're pressured not only by how we use our time, but how capable we are to turn time into wealth. Life becomes a rat race to see who can finish first and richest. We never slow down. We never catch up. We run until we run out of fuel, and then we collapse because of the weight of expectation and the fact that this lifestyle is absolutely unsustainable for long periods of time. We get emotionally and physically sick, and we spiritually burn out. We get emotionally and physically sick, and then we spiritually starve because we haven't spent any time with God. We've created lives that only seek to bring glory to ourselves. Does this seem to describe your life at this moment? Maybe if not right now, have you ever experienced a period of craziness like this in your life? The awesome thing about this situation that we often find ourselves in is that we have the ability to change it with God's wisdom and help. I want us to turn to James chapter 4. James chapter 4. I'm going to be reading from the New American Standard Version, and I'm going to begin in verse 13 and read through chapter 5, verse 6. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we shall go to such and such a city and spend a year there and engage in business and make a profit. Yet you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow. You are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and also do this or that. But as it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. Therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. Chapter 5, verse 1. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for your miseries which are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your garments have become moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver have rusted, and their rust will be a witness against you. It will consume your flesh like fire. It is in the last days that you have stored up your treasure. Behold, the pay of the laborers who mowed your fields and which has been withheld by you cries out against you. And the outcry of those who did the harvesting has reached the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. You have lived luxuriously on the earth and led a life of wanton pleasure. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and put to death the righteous man. He does not resist you. I want to ask you a question. What came to mind as we were reading this passage? At any moment in that passage, did you feel like James was speaking directly at you? I know I did. But why? Why would this passage speak to us? The fact is this, that most people in the world struggle with time management and a misplaced view of money and wealth. I want to give you two simple truths as we look at this passage. And then I want to give you some pointers or some advice from God's Word that will help us when it comes to time and money. Here's these two truths. Truth number one, let's remember that time and wealth are gifts from God. Truth number two, if time and wealth are gifts from God, then they should be used to glorify God. Let's dig into each of these truths. Truth number one, time and wealth are gifts from God. Did you notice James' appeal against the arrogance and absurdity of thinking that we could actually plan our time without God? Did you notice the disgust that he used to speak against those who have allowed wealth to enslave their hearts and change their attitudes toward others? You see, not one of us can control time. God is the sole creator of time and its methods from start to finish. God is sovereign in His ability to predetermine and control time. But all too often, we approach our lives as though we can control what is or will be. And as we do this, we load up ourselves with so much stuff that we can barely breathe. Our calendars begin to control us with busyness, and then we lose sight of the preciousness of this gift. In James chapter 4, verses 14 and 15 again, James makes it very clear that not only can we not control time, but we can't even determine our own lifespan. Only God has the power and the ability to do that. When you look back at chapter 5, verses 1 through 6, James is speaking of wealth, and he wants to make it very clear that we have no right to view life as only material in nature, or even take it a step further and abuse others with this mentality. As a matter of fact, the wording that James uses there helps us to understand that this mentality or this view of materialism is horrific in and of itself. These thoughts of both time and money, when you're looking at the Bible in James 4, verse 17 and 5:3, can be summed up simply as this: sinful and destructive. These attitudes happen when we forget where our gifts have come from. On the other hand, if we remember that God and God alone has given us these gifts in life, then we will begin to make a shift in our mindset and attitude from busyness, arrogance, and materialism towards that of peacefulness, humility, and gratitude. Truth number two, if time and wealth are from God, they should be used to glorify God. Did you notice what James said about time in verse 17? To one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. There's obviously a right way to go about managing our time. And I believe that James is challenging us to make sure that our time revolves around that which glorifies God. In chapter 5, verses 1 through 6, James is obviously down on oppressing others with our wealth. But the opposite of that would plainly be the idea of helping others. So here's how you can glorify God with both time and money. Number one, be sure that God is a part of every decision you make. When you are scheduling your time and all the aspects of your day, be sure to allow God's presence in every plan that you make. Don't give God just a token moment of 5 or 10 minutes at the start or finish of your day. Make sure He is with you in everything you do. When you are gifted with wealth, when you are gifted with wealth and material possessions, be sure you allow God to help you decide the best use for those. You'll be surprised at those things you choose or choose not to do when you ask the question, will this glorify God? And you'll be more thoughtful in the ways you view and use your money because you are seeking to honor Him. In Colossians 3 verse 4, Paul makes the assumption of all Christians that Christ is our life. Jesus doesn't want to be second or third place, obviously. But you know what? He won't even settle for first place in our lives. He wants our lives fully and completely, and He wants to be involved in everything we do. Here's number two. Be sure to keep idols at bay. Often we fill up our calendars with things that are mundane or even vain in nature. We allow those things we enjoy to become those things we love. And if we're not careful, these things we love begin to define us because we give so much time and effort to them. Don't get me wrong, sports, games, school, vacations, relationships, even naps are all things we enjoy spending time with and spending time doing. But we must never allow them to take God's place in our lives. We must make sure that our possessions don't become the desires of our heart. It's great for us to work hard and achieve success, but it's not okay for these things to cloud our view of reality, spiritual versus physical, and that which is most important. Francis Chan said in the book Crazy Love, "Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter." In other words, our time and wealth must always be viewed in light of eternity. What is most important, and how will it glorify God? Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 17, that God will judge both the righteous man and the wicked, for a time for every matter and every deed is there. At the end of the day, we have all been blessed with the same amount of time, and we have all been given some degree of wealth in our lives. The challenge we are faced with is simply this: to make sure that we strive to glorify God in both time and money.